Welcome to our first ever quarterly meeting for PBJ Learning, and I appreciate that Adam was able to make it today. Everybody else has lives or things that are going on, and we're just gonna. Sorry, what I mean is their lives have taken over their last few moments. So I don't mean this doesn't have a life, for crying out loud. But yeah, that didn't sound too great, did it? Okay, so all right, so the people that we would be expecting to be here would be Mariel Combs, Teresa, Dave, and Adam, and myself. So those are our current advisors, and we know that over time this is going to grow. And I kind of wanted to go over how we got here. This started for me around 2013 when my kids were being groomed by a guy that I knew. Jackie and I just went to a summit, and she said that I need to be as blunt as possible so that people really understand this. And so I'll lay it out. So I was working on a project at home with or for a friend of mine who was my boss. I've known him for almost 10 years. And so he'd call the house, talk to me. Sometimes he'd call the house, talk to Jackie. Sometimes he'd talk to the kids because he'd known them forever. And one day the kids came to me and Jackie and they said, my son said, why is he telling me what porn sites I'm supposed to watch? And our daughter came to us and asked, why is he telling me how to take wet wipes and clean the folds of my vagina? It was absolutely ludicrous that happened. So we went to him immediately and confronted him. He seemed to think that was perfectly normal. Incredibly long story short, we went to the police, turned him in. We found out that he was a sex predator. Also found out by talking about this with other people that he had actually molested some children when he was 17, a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old when he was up in New York. And you could find this on the New York Times. He managed to have that. He couldn't get that scrubbed off the internet. Everything else, nothing. So I would have had no idea about any of this had this not happened to me. So this journey, or this really, because we found out what the police told us was grooming, and so we figured out we needed to go learn more about it, and couldn't find anything that made or anything that we thought would make sense to the kids or anybody else that we knew. So we talked to our friends that had kids and tried to describe this stuff, and ultimately, they have the same reaction that most people do, which is that this would never happen to my kids or whatever. And of course, we learned this could lead into grooming. We also found out that this guy had also been abusing a 17-year-old for years, doing other just outrageous things to him that I would prefer not to talk about. But the kid turned 18, and that's when the kid turned him into the police. And it turned out he didn't get in trouble for that either. So this guy knew how to work the system. It's disgusting. So a few years later, I started working in virtual reality and found out that VR could actually make people care. It could put people in a better state of mind, help them remember things, etc. So I decided I was going to create a virtual reality experience that would teach people how grooming occurs. And so I spent about a year learning all about this, working on a script along with people from the governor's office and people all over the United States, and built a simulation that puts you in the shoes of a young girl and explains how she was groomed by a boy online, what her situation was like, what made her vulnerable, etc. And we've been using that ever since 2017. So I want to talk a little bit about radical empathy because that's how I got here. We founded Radical Empathy, my original owner and I, in 2016, got nonprofit status. In 2017, I went through the entire year working on this project to learn more about the field. Really, 2017, at the beginning of 2018, we started taking it out to people. So 2018 was a kind of a growth year. In 2019, we licensed it to the University of North Texas Health Science Center. They've been using it to educate their students, their medical students that are there. In 2020, we were get the rubber hitting the road. We went out to Los Angeles and demonstrated at the Tony Robbins' 60th birthday, which was done alongside of Operation Underground Railroad. They sent us out there. This was done at the Microsoft Center. It was really huge. In one night, they raised $18 million to fight trafficking through Operation Underground Railroad. Right after that, we had 15 fundraising events set up at South by Southwest. all sorts of different groups, including the University of Texas and their virtual reality lab. And ultimately, South by got canceled, and so that was the end of that. And so just recently, we just started, getting back out doing VR stuff, and we just licensed our app to Uprising, who is in Wyoming. They're a small group, but they're one of the only ones that are up there. They originally used it to train attendees of their GRIT conference, which stands for Greater Rockies Interactive Training Conference. It went really well. We've had one nonprofit that's really interested. They don't have any money, but we're trying to figure out how to work with them. And all told, I have people using our VR app. So that kind of is a little rundown of Radical Empathy. And in 2020, I was in a depression. I was not very happy. Nothing was happening with Radical Empathy. And I knew that we had to have an online course because that was the thing everybody was out. So Dave and I kind of saw the VR thing as the peanut butter and the online training as the jelly. So we kept talking about that and the way that we worked. Dave would do something and I would kind of finish it, or I'd do something and Dave would finish it. So we just saw PBJ as the name because it all seemed to link together. So we spent, from October when we met each other of 2020 until August of 2021, working on putting the organization together, figuring out what we wanted to do, and then building an online course called Human Trafficking Essentials. Did tons of research. It's in a better format than anything I've ever seen. I think it has better results than any course I've ever seen. By now, I've taken over 100 different courses. I've got certificates from tons of them, and I started doing reviews of some, watch video reviews on PBJ Learning if you want to see just how crappy these things are. So during this year, we started off in January, Human Trafficking Awareness Month, working to do anything we could to market the product. We even got on the homepage of Psychology Today. And all of this work that we were doing, we got maybe one user of Human Trafficking Essentials per day. Not even all of those finished. And we were also doing a thing called pay what you want. So anybody that was a user could pay any amount of money that they wanted for the course. We recommended $20 at the time, and we got about 3/4 of the way through January and realized that we weren't really getting any traction. And we decided that instead of spending the rest of our time working on getting maybe one user a day, that maybe we should start working on the next thing, which would be doing a hospitality course, because it was just required in the state of Texas by law. And this is something that we'll talk about in just a minute, which is something we're growing into. We have a course almost finished. I'll talk about that in a second. So, so we've been doing everything we can, not just to market not just to market PBJ, but also building our team. We brought on some advisors, among which are Adam, who's here, Marielle, and Teresa, and they've been absolutely fantastic helping us. A lot of times you'll bring an advisor on and they really don't. But we've been very fortunate that everybody has contributed. Added a couple of articles for us, and he's allowed me to put some of his video work up, which has been huge. One statistic on the PBJ website, we've had over 30,000 hits since we started, which is not as many as I would like, obviously. Completed students in Human Trafficking Essentials. That is not enough. It is embarrassing, honestly, and it makes me question how people actually give a crap about this. And it also makes me wonder if I'm doing everything wrong, having to do online stuff. So I've spent probably the last 6 months learning everything I can about search engine optimization so that we can get more people to organically come to the site. I've spent a ton of time working on our knowledge vault, which like I said, I think, did I already say that I talked about that? Yeah, we have over 1,000 articles on there. So I have been really working hard. I didn't want to start using anything that had been printed previously, but honestly, I don't have the time to write all that stuff. And if somebody decides that they want me to take it down, they will just write me and I will take it down. So I've been pulling everything I can off of Google Alerts, the U.S. Department of Labor site, everything I can. Topics include everything from grooming to satanic ritual abuse. I mean, I've learned how all this stuff is really interconnected. So I've been putting everything up there, and it's as categorized as I can get it. So you can click on any tag or category, go back and forth to everything. I don't know of a better resource, and I have looked. If there is a better one, I want to know. All right, so kind of want to talk a little bit about what Dave has been doing over the years, and this is how I actually met Dave. So Dave created a human trafficking hater YouTube channel. He was posting quite regularly. So I was like, okay, this guy cares about trafficking. He's doing something about trafficking. He's doing it regularly. So I reached out to him through the comment section of one of his videos because there wasn't any way to figure out who the heck he was. So he wasn't putting his face on the screen. So I was like, I don't know. He brought me back, and that's how we got connected. And I asked him today, and he says he's had almost 100,000 views on his channel or on the videos, and he has a little over 1,000 subscribers, which having 1,000 lets him do a couple of little extra things. And recently, I guess about 3 months ago, he decided that he was going to start a TikTok account, and he did it under the Human Trafficking Hater brand, so to speak. And I really think that's a good thing. I want Dave to keep a sexuality, life, etc. Out there. And so over 3 months, he's collected over 1,100 followers, and he's had almost 300,000 views of his stuff. So kind of to talk a little bit about Human Trafficking Hater and how it plays into PBJ and radical empathy is that Dave has been trying to direct people from these social media sites to PBJ's page and to Radical Empathy's page. And honestly, it's not that successful. And it's not anything to do with Dave because he's done a lot of special videos, but they haven't really paid off. And so one of the challenges that we have is how do you put things out to the universe? How do you do marketing and then measure the effects of that marketing? So for instance, the Psychology Today article, all we can really do is find out, did somebody click on that article? Very few people did. I posted through our email list that we did it, sent an email out that we did it, and then got very few clicks on that. And so it's like, I don't know how successful that really was. And same thing goes with the YouTube channel, the TikTok channel, because it's very difficult to measure. Did somebody actually decide to look us up through that thing? Did they actually click on the link that was there? And on TikTok, it seems like it's almost impossible to get somebody to click on anything. The thing just, at least from my viewpoint, it just seems like a barrage of video after video after video. Difficult to get the details section, even into the comment section. I don't know if I fat finger everything, but I can't even seem to like or put a little heart on all the comments that are on there without accidentally opening the comment to write my own and closing that and then getting to like it. So I'm not convinced that TikTok has the greatest user experience, but whatever the case, Dave is working on his brand, and I think it's a fantastic thing. So covering a few most recent success, Radical Empathy is kind of the closet, if you will. I mean, literally, there's the closet where everything has been stored. And so we were asked, I mean, originally this year, we kind of got started with the GRIT conference. Terry Markham found us and reached out, and we got a hold of her, did that show with her, and that kind of said, okay, it's time to get this thing going again. I couldn't afford to drive to Wyoming, which I wanted to do really badly, but that just wasn't going to happen. So we got invited. Actually, I went out to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I got there to do a demonstration for a lot of those people. After I did, the lady that runs this conference called the Light the Way Summit invited us to come and exhibit at a show. And apparently the Light the Way Summit is it's put together by the Department of Family and Protective Services here, and it is invite only. So they had 1,200 people that were professionals that they had invited, and it was everybody from CPS, foster care, health services, hospitals, etc. Even the Department of Labor actually had a table, surprisingly. That doesn't happen a lot at these shows. I can't imagine why it doesn't, but it just doesn't. So we exhibited there. Oh, yeah. So there's 1,200 people. And it took me about a week to get over all of the trauma that I heard about at the show. It seemed like everybody there wanted to tell me what they had gone through, and their stories. It was almost like every story was worse than the previous story. So, and right after that, Adam did his talk, and wow, that traumatized me even further. So, because oh, thank you. I lost sleep and work because of that, but I mean, I needed to hear it. So that was pretty messed up. And so I think we had a lot of good connections that happened from the show. But surprisingly, all the people that I've contacted have not contacted me back yet. I don't know if they're getting over things. They've been overwhelmed, but that's going to be something I try to do something about. Okay, last week I had been invited to go to a State Department meeting with this group from the state, or the International Visitor Leadership Program. These were all NGOs from India. None of them had any money, so it wasn't like we were trying to, get rich off of them. And of course, I offered that we would participate with them in any way, shape, or form, PBJ, Reef, or whatever. They seemed to absolutely love the VR program, so we're going to see where that goes. Let's see. And I have some video from it that I'm trying to put together. I've done a bunch of press releases recently. Putting out regular press releases is something that also helps you rank up on Google, and it lets people know that we're still alive. So here are some things that we are going to be working on in the upcoming future, barring any other things happening, like another Adam video where I have to hole up in a little burrow for a while and hug myself. All right, so we have mostly finished the hospitality training course for the state of Texas. In fact, it's so close. We only have like a couple of more activities that we want to put into it, but I think it's to a point where I can film it and send it to them so they don't have to actually go through the interactive part. And I think they'll approve it. It takes about 60 days for them to approve it, and then there's a 30-day turnaround for all of their feedback, etc. So it's possible I could send it in and we could have it up in a few months. TCOL is the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. So we have, they actually, I can't say they're the only group, but they're one of the very few groups that actually posts a listing of everything that needs to be in their training. So they have all these, learning objective requirements listed into it. We are going to be taking the human trafficking essentials and all of the requirements that are inside of that, and then adding on law enforcement stuff to it. So there'll be two classes, so to speak, but so we don't have to redo everything. Okay, so University of North Texas Health Science Center. I found this out at the summit, which was in Dallas. So UNTHSC is up in Dallas, we're in Fort Worth, but the lady that actually got our program started there, her name is Dr. Martha Fellini, and she brought me up there. I demonstrated for her. The guy that's the chairman or whatever the hell his title was, Dr. Bruce, I can't think of his last name. He was part of making it happen. And then she also pitched it to the people that work in the research department. So they came and they actually started a study on this thing. So the whole idea was we were going to go there, they were going to run the study, they were going to finish the study and prove that our program they ever had. I participated that day, so I was up there in a room full of about 75 students. I wanted to have educated in a little over an hour. So we had literally the day before, we had turned our HTC Vive, very expensive version, into a version that works on the Quest headset. It was literally that morning I was installing the last version of it on there. So that was pretty crazy. But when the Martha was doing her course, she was doing about a 30 to 45 minute PowerPoint, which she normally gives. And I'm watching the students sit in the room and they're kind of, taking notes and things like that. And so as the lecture went on, we started bringing in headsets and we're setting them on all the tables. And they're kind of like, what's up with this? And so Martha finishes her lecture and says, okay, now we're going to let you guys try this VR thing. So incredibly long story short, the technology worked, the app works, worked. And when the students would take the headset off, they were like, oh my God, I never really understood this. And so they all ran over to Martha and just barraged her with questions. And so the people that were running the study were losing their mind because they were like, they had a series of very simple questions, what do you think of human trafficking, et cetera. and then they did it again once they got finished, and everything went from sad to needs help, or I don't understand enough about it, to empathy, caring, support, all the things that you would really want. This is a real kind of thing. So it went crazy. The reviewers and the people that were running the study lost their mind. Okay, so I know it works. I know it's awesome. Blah blah blah. And so did Martha, and so did everybody else that was there. And it turns out that the guy that was running the place, Dr. Bruce, unfortunately, and I apologize, Bruce, if you're watching this, but Bruce kind of put the kibosh on everything from the study, removed Martha from the program, and it really, I don't think, has been used nearly as effectively as it used to be. So when I was up in Dallas, back to the story, I had dinner with Martha and her husband, who Lewis is amazing too, his own story. But Martha says that Bruce has retired. So now we're back to moving forward again with University of North Texas. So they're probably going to start paying because I let them keep the lights out, them having to pay, because it seems like it made a lot more sense to let medical students continue using it instead of taking it away from them. And I think it's so we can say that we've been doing it since 2019. And so that's a really good thing that I think is coming up. I think we're going to be able to get going back again with University of North Texas. All right, so Teresa has been really pushing the concept of an international course. We have advisors from, I can't say we have advisors, but we have people that want to advise us that are from overseas. The people that were from India, that State Department visit, those people were extremely interested. Whether it result in an international course, anybody paying for it, etc., I don't know, but it is something that's out there, and I think there's more to be said about that eventually. So I'm going to continue doing more online articles, resources, doing some more press releases. I have been doing a lot of thinking on how to do additional marketing. And one of the things that I want to push hardcore is, now that everything is back and working, and I have lots of success stuff to talk about, I'm going to start getting online interviews on podcasts, trying to do any type of additional marketing that I can. And let's see. So here are the challenges that I see coming up. I think marketing is our biggest challenge, which I want to market both of us. I want to find somebody that does marketing, or a company that does marketing. The more that I think about how Radical Empathy works, I feel like its best success will probably be getting itself on the road, a bunch of headsets doing work. There was a talk earlier this year about about going with a race car circuit, and that petered out, so that did not work. But it has definitely put my mind on that, and I think that it's also a good way to raise money. So that's been something I've been thinking about. I think we're going to add some more advisors this year. Again, more content for the Knowledge Vault, and some realities. Dave and I are broke. We have run through our savings, and I don't want to go too much into Dave's life, but he's about to move as well. So that kind of makes a lot of fun happen. Jackie and I are busy listing stuff on eBay, like right now, my prized possessions that I want to get rid of, and those include old video game paraphernalia and documentation that is valuable to some people. So I have some faith that we're going to be okay for a little while, but that's not going to last forever. So I don't want to go back to making video games. That shit's, and it's boring and doesn't help anything. So reality, we're not selling courses. Our website's we're not getting the views that it really could, and I have no idea if anybody's going to try to kill me at all, or Dave, or anybody else. And a real concern from the thing that he just did, because people that do that against the Taliban and other groups that are performing this type of bullshit across the world actually do want to kill people. Yeah, this stuff, it's as real as it gets. Okay, so that's everything down. I know it's a lot, 25 minutes of me rambling forever. And I kind of just wanted to make sure all of that was on tape so we can send it to the other advisors and any other advisors that come on. So there you go. Adam, what do you think? What's going on? What do we need to be doing, etc.? I'd like to add to that every group I've talked to in this field, with the exception of possibly, well, no, with Underground Railroad, they have money, and then maybe Thorn, but yeah, they are big time. And then maybe Love 146. They have an interesting way that they do their stuff, but and Love 146 has a pretty decent social media following as well. But everyone else broke. The the coalitions that I participate in, from Houston to Dallas, not only are they still having tons of turnover, but they're also reporting that their volunteers and other staff members during the pandemic quit. They're like, there's no money in it. I want to spend time with my family. This is too risky. And so it's like there are openings in all these places as well, from nursing to aftercare. So this topic, this whole thing, this field is rampantly broke. And on top of that, in Texas, it seems that whenever they raise funds through the government, those funds get allocated, if they get allocated, because sometimes they don't. If they get allocated, they tend to be sending them to the border. And the whole thing is unbelievable. Not to mention that no one out there in corporate America or multinationals seems to give a shit. This is my friends called it radioactive. They're like, why are you doing this radioactive topic? I'm like, because you think it's radioactive. That's the problem. So, yeah, I'm open to ideas, and I don't really have a ton of them. I'm thinking about finding giant corporations to try to fund me to go from city to city. What kind of ideas do you have besides being on food stamps and any type of social services to keep a roof over your head? Sure. Yeah, top to bottom. I interject just there for just a second. First off, my little thing said I got things. So what's going to happen is when it cancels out, I'm just going to restart it, and you just rejoin. And I'm still in this video. The video is going to keep going. But what I wanted to say that the system is so messed up, and then being in that Dallas show, some of the thing that was maddening was the stories that they told. But some of the story they told were about the foster care system and CPS and everything having to do with taking care of unwanted children being so broken. It was unbelievable. The I don't want to recount everything. One lady just described it as she was like, I did social services and worked in CPS in other states, and I thought those were bad. And I got to Texas and I realized this is like the worst ever. And then, of course, with the most recent Supreme Court decision, that is going to go into the completely broken. And I don't know how to do anything about it except go protest. And that's what my wife and I did for hours yesterday here at the state capitol, Texas. Anything. They also don't like to, no offense to those people, and maybe this isn't their case, but most people don't want to hear how broken the system is, and they just this. You saw that thing, and you're the one that brought up the Hawaii didn't have any requirements. There's 50, and there's 50 gangs just in the Los Angeles Police Department, well documented. Yep. This stuff has driven me to being curled up and ineffective at times. This is horrible. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard many times this phrase "race to the bottom," right? So it's like, how do you find the cheapest work, the cheapest this, the cheapest this, and even I've seen plenty of documentaries about other countries, and they're like, how do we lower our prices? Because as soon as a corporation finds out it's cheaper in Indonesia by a couple of pennies, they move all their work to Indonesia, and then those people that just got left out, they're like, okay, what am I going to do? Lower my prices? There's no um, yeah, no one seems to want to do anything. And our capitalistic situation is, here are the people at the bottom, and they are going to be working cheaper and cheaper for the people at the top. And fairness does not enter into it. And of course, with Ukraine happening and all these people that are refugees, then and of course, Ukraine is just one example of the people that are, it's the only one people will talk about. You're right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It requires thinking and imagining our entire I'm not going to say capitalism, but commerce system. We at the top, the first world nations, are straight up taking advantage of everybody below us and you destroying their resources. And and everybody seems to want to believe that this new green revolution is going to be a good thing. And I'm like, dude, who's digging up all that cobalt? Where's the manganese going to come from? Where is the lithium going to come from? And it's like the answers are ugly and nobody wants to talk about it. So and I don't really know what my world is. Try to educate people, try to educate the right people, and get people to understand that this is actually a real thing. And in specific, when it comes to with radical empathy, the thought process that I have always had after having dug into this for a year and a half when I got started was that the answer to this is trying to be a functional family, spending time with your family and friends, trying to be a functional friend, try to be a functional society that takes care of the poorest and most vulnerable. And that's kind of as far as I think that I could really take that. And I'm hoping that PBJ Learning can get to the point where it's educating people internationally and getting them to understand, supply chains and supply lines, and how important it is to understand where that stuff is coming from. Writing an anti-slavery statement and signing it by the CEO and saying it's important is not enough. It's not. And with the Supreme Court, throwing out the case of the cocoa slaves on a technicality, that is not helping anything either. So anyway, yeah, so that's all really horrendously depressing. Okay, so I don't know how to solve all those problems. I know that it's bad, and I know that we can make a dent on some things, but that was kind of my biggest disappointment with our online course, was just to find out that I had to beg people that I personally know to go take this course, and sometimes I had to do it under the guise of, hey, can you spell check everything for me, or hey, can you go through and make sure the videos play and all this. I don't get it. I mean, do people have to be personally affected by this to care? The last thing I wanted to add about all that before this meeting thing ends in 1 minute and 45 seconds, which of course we're going to restart, is that I have been to so many coalition meetings, and now thankfully I can do them over Zoom, which is fantastic, because that means I get to go to 10 times more of them. But there's almost never anybody there from the Labor Department. Almost never. It's people that are concerned about domestic minor sex trafficking. And don't get me wrong, I'll say it a million times, everybody that's trying to do anything is a hero. But when you sit in these meetings and the person from the Department of Labor is sitting there going, can we please talk about labor trafficking, and then nothing happens, it's depressing. I mean, the guy that was from the Labor Department at the Like the Way Summit sat there almost the entire time not engaging with anyone. I mean, he had his booth, and I went over, I spent 2 hours with him, and I think I was the person that spent the most time with him. And I begged him to give me some materials that I could put on my site. And he's mailed me 2 press releases. So I don't really know. All right, so this thing's about to cancel out. I'm going to go ahead and just shut it and start it right back up. Give me about 30 seconds, Adam. Thank you, sir. Be right back. All right, so we are still here, and I am just restarting this Zoom call. Adam will come right back, and then I think we're going to wrap it, maybe with some hopeful stuff for the future. All right, starting video, unmuting, and Adam will show up hopefully in the little waiting area. I appreciate anyone that has made it this far. You're a superhero. If you're one of our advisors, I want you to know that it's totally cool that you weren't able to make it. This meeting has been rescheduled so many times that all due to my failure to get my shit together. All right, so Adam, I kind of want to, instead of have this thing go a little more hours, which I know you and I could just talk about, let's try to see if we can wrap up any ideas about what we can do about raising funds. I mean, even, I don't care how crazy the idea is, and if we could think of any other ways to, or other things that we need to be working on in the next 3 months. So kind of the quarterly, what should for 3 months? Besides, I know, right? So some of the ideas that I've had about raising money have been find a way to give the course away with so that's something that could happen. I want to find a large org that will use the course for their employees. That's something that I have been thinking about. In fact, I was talking to the new CEO over at Operation Underground Railroad, and we had a great phone call, and then silence. I mean, every time I try to get a hold of him, he just doesn't get back with me. So I really don't know what's up with that. They've even seen the VR thing, and I'm just kind of like, I don't get the disconnect there. I told him I'd help him make some money. I don't care. Pay him for whatever. So what about, I mean, I know the other thing is like government groups. Can you think of any government group that I could approach that would be interested? Tried. I was part of an FBIC AAA, group for a while, and they didn't do anything. I went to an FBI event in Houston. Everybody thought things were cool, but as far as trying to follow up, they didn't even know who I was supposed to talk to. One last thing. So the one of the challenges I've had with the course is that when I go to a group, I say, we want to give you this. We want to give you access to the thing. We want to give it to you. We'd like to have you review it. We'd like to, whatever, support your group for free. And it goes into this review process where no one even knows what's supposed to be in a course. I mean, they'll hire anybody with a PowerPoint. They're like, oh yeah, we had somebody come in and give a PowerPoint. I'm like, okay, well, what was in the PowerPoint? I don't know. Well, what were your requirements for it? I don't know. So what are your requirements for, any training? Oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, why is our course not good enough? So it's like I don't know. I just wanted to say that because that's a huge challenge that I have. That's what it feels like completely. And I'm talking about anti-trafficking groups. Yeah, I mean, so I'm not crazy. That's what I mean. That's just what I feel like all of the time. And I don't really get it. I mean, there's no accrediting agency anywhere as far as training should be. Nobody says this is the training you're supposed to get. All there is the TVPA, and we've covered everything in the TVPA. There's nothing else to cover as far as I can tell. So, okay. So as far as government agencies, you're kind of the same as me, just a giant question mark. What would that be? Who would that be? I can't even imagine. So all I can think of, and this is something I've been considering for a long time, is just find every company that donates to human trafficking and go harass them. It's like, looks like you donated $50,000 to X, Y, or Z. And it's like, are you interested in a different way to do everything? So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's where I want to go. And you probably don't know this any more than I do, maybe. So there's a ton, and this is what everybody says. Well, why would anybody pay money for your course when it's free everywhere else? I'm like going, okay, all right. How about I give it to you for free? It's like so that doesn't go anywhere. Here's the thing I keep asking myself. So Truckers Against Trafficking, for example, is a good organization. They do good work. They've got a course online that some of the stuff in there is good, but mostly it's not. Honestly, it's not an effective test. It doesn't do the stuff that I would really want. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's free. So my question is, of the 7 million people that are in the trucking industry, how many people actually took that course? How many people are required to take that course? And what happens if they don't take that course? I called the people in the hotel industry, or the hotel, whatever, big association. And I said, well, what happens if somebody doesn't take this hotel training? And they're like, well, we can't really take away their license because there is no license to be a hotel. So I'm like, all right, well, what can you do? And I don't think there is an answer. I mean, like even in the law, it doesn't say here's what happens. There's no punishment. I mean, like look at the Modern Slavery Act. I mean, where's your punishment for that? If you don't do the stuff, no, are people getting fined? And I don't know. I don't really get it. Maybe I'm not educated enough. Maybe I haven't looked into the minutia enough. But one of the, and something I should really, I know this is going to be on the list. Look at upcoming, current, recent laws, and try to beat others' punch. So I know that some states are passing laws about hotel stuff and other things, and I know that there are groups that have requirements, but that's just going to require an asinine amount of research, and then trying to get ahead of them. And the general thinking is that these other groups that already had, they've already put a stake in it, have a lead on us, and it's likely it's going to be difficult to overcome it. ECPAT is one of them, and their course isn't that great either, honestly. So, all right, I think it's 1 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and say let's end this thing, so this doesn't turn into a ramble fest that no one will ever look at. Well, no, we can turn the thing. I could talk for the rest of the day and think. I know it's all good. All right. Well, hey, talk, dude. Just call. It's no problem. 20. I know that all of us that are working on this sometimes just feel overwhelmed and alone. So feel free. Adam, thank you so much, and thank you. Bothered to go through this. I'm this document in the YouTube description, and I'm also going to make this a article on our Knowledge Vault. Anybody that has any thoughts, please share them. Phone number, you can get a hold of me, .com/contact. You can call me 24 hours a day. Okay, thank you so much, Adam. Thanks for being here. Everybody else, believe in yourself.